afternoon. My name is Shana Keller, and I'd like to thank Miss Kathy Parks for inviting me to share Major Charity Adams' story with you for Women's History Month. During World War II, the United States Army sent nearly 900 African American women overseas. These women zigzagged their way across the ocean for 11 days, headed to England with their mission unknown. Their chance to contribute to the war effort began with one of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's advisors, Mary McLeod Bethune. Fighting against racism and segregation, Miss Bethune advocated with First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt to find purposeful roles for African American women in the war. Many of these women already had family members fighting in the war, and they also wanted to help. Before they left, the women received training at Fort Oglethorpe in Georgia. Charity Adams, along with many others, was recruited from the Women's Army Corps, and she served as the commanding officer of the 688th Central Postal Directory Battalion, also known as the 688. It was the only African American unit of women to serve overseas during World War II. The unit had 31 officers and almost 900 enlisted women. The 688th Central Postal Directory Battalion was responsible for the redirection of mail to U.S. personnel in the European theater operations. The total number of U.S. personnel involved was estimated to be about 7 million, but only the War Department knew the exact number. This number included people in the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Corps, and Seabees, uniformed civilian specialists and technicians, non-uniformed specialists, congressmen and their aides on inspection trips, Red Cross workers, and every person involved in and with the military activity in the ETO. As stated from Major Adams's biography, One Woman's Army, a black officer remembers the WAC. Despite constant discrimination at home, these women went through basic training and additional special training, performing their gas mask drills, obstacle courses, and close order drills exceedingly well. The 688 arrived at Birmingham, England on February 14th, 1945. They had just enough time to locate their new living quarters in an old school building, put their gear up before they were taken to multiple warehouses. Inside these warehouses, they discovered stacks and stacks of bags of mail, including 6 airplane hangars worth of Christmas packages, all undelivered. The Army's leadership predicted that this backlog of mail would take at least 6 months to process, but the 688 did it in 3. They knew how uplifting letters from home could be, and they knew they were important to the success of the war. As Major Adams said, morale could not be maintained without mail from home. The more they sorted, the more they knew. No mail equaled low morale. The women of the 688 wasted no time in getting down to business and seeing that the troops received their mail. They managed and streamlined the mail delivery system by setting up 3 8-hour shifts 7 days a week. 1 shift worked, 1 shift rested, and the 3rd shift, considered off-duty, ventured into town for recreation and entertainment, such as dancing, bowling, and eating out. They also had to create a system in which case they assigned serial numbers to distinguish thousands and thousands of name duplicates. For example, there were more than 7,500 Robert Smiths. Without a serial number or a local understanding of the nicknames used in the United States, this task would have taken much longer. With a system in place and at peak performance, the 688 processed over 65,000 pieces of mail per shift. At the end of the war, that was over 17 million parcels of mail. Lieutenant Colonel Anna W. Wilson, European Theater Operations, WAC Staff Director, wrote, in late 1945, the unit broke all records for redirecting mail. Despite their stellar performance, racism within the Army still followed them overseas. When generals came to visit, they were frequently ordered to march for inspection. Major Adams did not relent. She had faced discrimination before. Major Adams stood up for her unit when threatened to be replaced by a white first lieutenant, and when the American Red Cross tried to segregate her battalion. Prior to this assignment, on one of her train trips, on which she was frequently sent out as a convoy officer, moving troops from one post to another, she encountered other white women who questioned her officer's uniform and accused her of being an imposter. Fortunately, during one particular situation, the military police, the MP on duty, refused to question Major Adams, and instead said to the white woman who was unconvinced about Adams's rank, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I have no reason to bother that officer. I am here in case of trouble or a problem of some kind. There is no problem here. If I check, to use your words, that officer and she is not an imposter, I might not be a sergeant tomorrow. Besides, an imposter would not pick a rank that high." Another situation occurred on another train trip. This time Adams was waiting with her family in Atlanta Station. The MPs on duty requested to speak with Major Adams privately. Adams, not realizing their intent at first, said, "Of course," and followed them into the corridor where they stopped. They asked to see her identification. Adams asked why. They hemmed and hawed, saying some people, there was a question, and, well, they couldn't quite get it out before Adams interrupted. "I see," she said. "You want to know if I really am a major in the United States Army." They stuttered a bit more while Adams opened up her purse and took out pen and paper. Then she laid it on. "Now I have some questions to ask," she said. "Names. I can see your rank, your serial number, your unit, location, the name of your commanding officer." She wrote all of this information down and then said, "I suggest that it would be easier for you if you report this incident to your CO before I get my report to him. You are dismissed." They saluted her, held the door open for her, and disappeared in the opposite direction. Adams did not have to report the incident because when she called, she learned that the two MPs had indeed reported themselves. Adams boldly stood up for her unit. Her unit was self-sufficient, organized, reliable, and incredibly proficient. By March 1946, all of the 6th AAA had quietly returned home, back to the United States without any fanfare. Major Charity Adams left the service in 1946 as the highest-ranking African-American woman in the United States Army, a lieutenant colonel. She was selected as one of the 100 most important Black women in history by the Smithsonian Institute. She passed away January 13th in 2002. It is my honor and privilege to present Major Charity Adams for Women's History Month. Thank you to Ms. Kathy Parks for inviting me to present Major Charity Adams' story with you today.